Hello, everybody. Hope you're all well. Adam Steele here, as usual. And we're picking up from last week's stream. This is now episode 4 of the pop punk mixing. I've had to rush a little bit to get here, to get on time. I've been jumped on by a child for the last hour, as happens when you're a dad. And yeah, I'm here. Let's rock and roll. So on the last one, we got to... Where's the button? There's the button. We got to a song called Pirates, and we got the reamping in. And as you can see, I've got JST Sub Destroyer here because there was a sub drop here, which is no longer there. But with this, I can fire this off. And if you've got a sub, you'll hear this. I hope. Let's just make sure that... Yep, I saw the levels. And so I can distort that to my heart's content. I won't. I'll just trigger that at the right point. So the right point being here, just where the song comes in. So I'll add in an automation point. There is trigger fire. And you can have it so that trigger fire fires wherever you need it. So let's listen to this song through as we have it with the reamps and some of the mix stuff from Savior, which is... I'm going to open that in the background. That's going to take a second, just so that I can keep referring back to the mix we had previously. While that loads up, you can see I'm getting old because I have a snack for the stream. This is Fiber Yum. Fiber Yum. That's what you need when you get to middle age, and I'm almost there. Okay, here we go. So what I wanted was the stuff from the guitar group, which is the SSL console and the virtual mix rack and tape machines and all that kind of stuff. That was the stuff that I definitely didn't have going here. And I want a little bit of a guitar send to the small room, just a tiny bit. Now let's just hear this as it stands.
Could be the one for me.
right, sounds pretty good. What we're really going to need to bring this up to a good standard is a lot of editing, really. It's just not tight. You can hear that the guitars are all over the place. The vocals are quite tight timing wise compared to the previous song, but everything just needs to come together. That's the main thing. So I'm going to solo the drums and the bass, and we are going to start from there. That's a little off. I mean, almost forgivably close, but those are the important parts on this song, is the da da da, and they have to be tight. And I am going to artificially just cut off these bass parts so it's more stabby. So it's more bam bam bam. I think this whole section feels a tiny bit early as well. So I'm just going to push it all back and see how it feels. Here we go. This is where the editing gets interesting. Because this is where it's all a little bit wonky. That's off to begin with. And some people will say, well, why don't you just quantize the audio? Which is a good question. Because quantizing loses all feel. I get to decide now whether something needs to be on the note or whether it can have a bit of pull and a bit of sway. Because if it's allowed a bit of pull and sway, sometimes that's the right thing to do. Sometimes that gives it that character that we want. When it's not quite cut, edited here, it feels quite organic, but it's just not quite on. That's all late. That one's a bit late, but those two are early. Okay. This doesn't need to be edited to death either. It just needs to be tight. Oh, and I pressed the W button, which does something. All seems a little not right. That could be earlier. That's a definite flump. So that should be tight. Using default theme, what a Chad. Is that supposed to be an insult? I've used the default theme for over a decade now. There's absolutely no reason not to. Okay. Yeah, that could fall back. There we go. Yeah, that whole section sounds good enough. But the start-stop section really needed doing. Would I ever make a video on the guitar bass editing process? That's what I'm doing right now. That is literally what I'm doing. That's why I do these live streams, because it wouldn't make sense to make a video on it since the process is different every time. But here I am. I'm doing it right now. Yeah, that section's all fine. Ooh, a little bit early there, which again on its own wouldn't be a problem, but with 4 guitars to go on top of that, it's got to be pretty close. Thought I could hear a couple of notes really early in there. That one could do with being a bit early. What's that? Just going to take that pedal away. That needs to be much better. One note is played out of tune. Then that's the performance. Ah well. Sounds close enough to me. Not everything has to be grid perfect. That's better. Also, these gaps are already kind of pre-silenced as I was reamping, so I don't have to clear them out unless the instrument is ringing. You don't have to write it in capitals. This isn't a chat mixes stream. Be aggressive like that and we will say bye-bye to you. there's a lot to be said for something being out of tune as well. If you've got all your instruments pulling in context and pulling together, it actually works. You ever listen to a band like Alice in Chains where they do semi-chromatic bends over the course of an entire bar? It's out of tune. It's not out of tune. Oh, doing crossfade edits takes a while to get the hang of, but one of the tips I keep saying is if you have to do crossfade edits, find the point that you want the part on the right to be at, and then crossfade backwards. That way you're less likely to get a hit that isn't right, and it kind of automatically makes the previous note sustain and crossfade in the right kind of places without you having to try too hard. Now let's layer the next layer of guitars on top, and we'll just make them bigger now, and then we'll turn those off and then use the bass and the drums as the time lock. Oh, insulting me in the chat because I'm not listening to exactly what you say. Bye-bye. Yeah, we don't take people like that on this stream because you're just insisting that you're better than me. We don't have that here. This is a little ahead. Ooh, I can hear a bit of an off time. Oh, so yeah, find the transient of the next note where you want, put that note where you want it to be, and then grab that and just pull the left-hand side of it out towards the left, because that then pulls in the fade of the previous note. And if you pull it backwards from there, nobody hears a crossfade if it's not near a hit. People are listening for where the hits are. If you try and crossfade the wrong way on a hit, you either soften off the transient or you end up just with a double transient or something nasty, and it can get bad quickly. Something doesn't sound right timing wise. I'm just going to use one guitar at once. Ah. That sounds really off. There we go. There's a stunk on the start of that note, which is throwing the visual off. There we go. And this just needs some manual editing, because I know that this is supposed to go da 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 and have gaps, because the difference between ding 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 and da da da, are those headphones for mixing? They work. These are Sennheiser HD 650s, and I'm also using the latest version of SonarWorks 5. Usually I'm in Studio A when I mix, but this is a stream, so I'm mixing on headphones because it's a stream. Also, I use the Slate VSX system wherever possible, but these are currently broken, and Slate haven't yet sent me the replacements. That system is nuts, but these are my old faithfuls. I use these for video editing, and they also work pretty well for mixing. I mean, they're not gonna win me a Grammy, but I get a clear enough representation of what's going on that I can do my job. Hello, Marty. Ooh, that starts to rush. I can actually see, because of the spectral peaks, where those are out. So let's try that. Just a little bit more. Manuel does my head hits. You do the manually. That's better. Now let's do the left side. that's fine at that point. Eric, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. That's dragging. So let's pull the whole thing back. And just do that pull to the left thing there. That's dragging now. That little bit is dragging, and I can't use my eyes here because this is such a solid wall. That's better. I wonder if we used a higher gain, like Tube Screamer or something, on the right hand side guitar, because you could see the waveforms looked far more solid. I'm just gonna clean these up too. There we go. And let's see how these two sound together. Hopefully this is nice and tight. Lovely. That's much tighter. Now let's move on. Oh, bye-bye vocals for now. And extra guitar, you go bye-bye too. Ba-da-bow. If that's going to stop, let's make it actually stop. Right, these are rushing very slightly. I can that ba-da ba-ba. I can hear the guitars rushing ahead. So I'm just going to chop that section, move it forward, move the transient back, see what happens. Yeah, so that section's good. I remember when I tracked this almost a decade ago, we were very particular about those da-da-da-da-da bits. Yeah, also because those chords slide around quite a bit, they get away with a bit more looseness. So it doesn't need chopping. And we go back to rushing here. Oh, no. So it seems that that first bit, as they come in eager, and then they catch the metronome and pull back. there must be an extra gain on one side because that's just going duck duck duck. It's a gainy mess. So let's just clean it out, like cleaning out a wound. Yeah, so da da da. That was abrupt. That was abrupt. Okay. Mage, hello, hello. Right, let's move on. That starts off too early. Bit of giddy guitarist syndrome. And from the ba-ba-da, they've locked in with the tempo. Ah, one of your ISPs went right. Does happen when you live on the moon. There we go. You can hear how the strings were probably a little too light for the way that he was smacking the guitar, so the open D chord does go a little sharp, but it's pop punk at the end of the day. It's got to be a bit rough around the edges. If it's not a bit rough around the edges, then you end up with people complaining that it's too manufactured and polished. So you've got to find that balance. Bring that back a little, because that doesn't go bada 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 bam, it goes bam, and the guitars probably all stop at different times, and so does the bass. So the bass needs to come in. There we go. How did I get the volume coloring? That is spectral peaks. That is, go to View, Peaks Display Settings, and choose Spectral Peaks, and that will show you your different frequency ranges. Funnily enough, I have been editing a video today where I talk about all the things that I do when I customize my version of Reaper, so that'll be out very soon. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit rough. Because those are all weirdly lumpy. And there's nothing else going on in the song at that point. So let's just do one at a time. You can hear if I turn the click on, it's nowhere near it. Just bought a pair of Slate ML2s, yay or nay? Well, I've had 5 and I've sent back 3. So the ones that I do have are great, but yeah, consider yourself warned. Keep them warm, keep them dry. There we go. That's all late. That's supposed to be ba-da, ba, ba-da-da-da, ba-da, and it's a bit too straight. That whole little bit here needs basically compressing. Time-wise, not volume-wise. from there, the whole thing is now too early, I think. Let's find out. Yeah, so that little stunk there should be sooner. Let's play that back with the click. Ooh. Closer, but not perfect. Too long of a gap, there's what that is. Not perfect, but probably the closest I'm going to get. Let's do the other side. That one's pretty close. Let's try them together. Probably not going to get any better than that, but if I'm being completely honest, this is something where if I was doing it again, I would make them record it again and again. Cool, that sounds about as good as it's gonna get. I mean, like I say, I am editing this album entirely for fun, so it's not like the other thing where I was supposed to do a stream on Friday for Banana Ranch, but that will be coming on, I think, Wednesday? So I just was wiped out after filming 5 videos in a row on one day. Yeah, no, it's funny that, yeah, cleaning stuff up like this, just doing it as a habit is good to keep you sharp so that when you do paid work, you are so on the game that people cannot deny you. Ah, yes. So, right, that's quite telling, actually, that both of these guitars are heavier on the right side. There's a lot more background noise in between notes. I remember at the time we were experimenting. Something that I still do quite a lot is I will vary slightly the sound between the left and right channels, whether it's a pickup change or whether it's a slight pedal change or whether it's something, just so that there's a variation in tone, so it's not just a static wall. But what I'm going to do with these are a stereo pair, if both right sides have got extra heavy in them, then I'm going to flip this guitar set so it's left and right instead of right and left. Wouldn't it be more musical to give them a slight difference in stopping? Do you mean there? If you look at them closely, they're not exactly the same. They're not. They just sound like they are cleaner. And no, it wouldn't sound more musical, it would sound more sloppy, because the way that a double track guitar is presented to the mind, it is one instrument. So that instrument should be treated and edited really as one instrument, as a double track, because if you don't, it just sounds like the guitarist can't play. I'll just mute the tom guitar again. There we go. I mean, the amount that I'm cutting these is really what an aggressive gate would have done at the time. With a guitar like this in pop punk, that's not weird. Right, so this is the bit where I need to turn one off at a time. Phase issues creep in if they're not in time. No, they don't. That's with different microphones, not different performances. Because different performances are not phase related, there can be no phase issues. It's moaning at me now that we're a lower bit rate than we should be. And it's like, well, what do you want from me? It just doesn't need to give you that much. So this just needs cleaning up. There's a lot of stunk after each note here, so I'm just basically doing what an aggressive gate would have done. Rush, rush. And you might notice I'm not quantizing these exactly to the grid. If Kyle the guitarist played a bit early, I don't mind him playing a bit early, as long as it's a little bit early and not overly early, because there is such a thing as editing with feel. Editing well doesn't have to take the humanity away. It can just, behind the scenes, magically make them a better player. Yeah, like that whole section, you can see how far ahead that is. That's tiny bit too far ahead. That is one of the things that makes this a little bit tedious, though, honestly. There we go. Chug a chug. We can see how it's gone late again there. The reason for a lot of this is that at the time, these two guitarists and the bass player were very young, very inexperienced, excited, giddy, and playing something rather complex, which doesn't feel complex, which is a strictly swung beat. That ba-da ba ba-da ba ba ba-da ba ba-da ba-da is the drums feel swung, the guitars are actually entirely just syncopated, and pulling in and out of syncopation like that is hard to do accurately while still staying on, because every other beat is off the metronome. It's not like you're a young guitarist and someone says, right, go chug, 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 chug. It's chug, 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 chug. And trying to keep those upbeats, ba, 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 perfectly on time is harder than it looks. Especially when you're still like looking at your hands to make sure you get into the right chord and that kind of thing. Those two need a little bit more better. Right, so that sounded close enough. I'm now going to mute that one, open up the other one. Oh, I keep triggering that sub. Apologies, everyone, if you subs rattle in your brains. Yeah, that already starts off on a rush. Dun, 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 dun. They're already a little late. That's all a tiny bit early. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I really recommend people to practice with a metronome, and not just practice simple with a metronome, but practice complex like this with a metronome, because the hardest parts to keep time are not the downbeats, it's the everything else. And that's why slow pieces are much more difficult for younger guitarists and drummers. That needs to be a little earlier. That should be a little further back, but not from there. I can see it. The all back. Cut, cleany clean. That jing jing jing. Let's pull that. Come on. That whole section just feels like it's pushing. That's better. Right, now let's hear both of these together, because this drives the verse. This has to be feeling good, if not technically correct. Close enough. I can hear that pushing. Let's try those two together. That's all. Oh, put that back. Da-dun, da-dun, dun, da-dun. Ah, the two notes. Everybody else is cleared out and this one's still ringing. That's what it is. Let's mold that around. These both seem just a little bit pushed. And there, they're no longer... What? No, there. Yeah, they pull back in time. Let's just edit this side to be much cleaner. Yeah, this is all over the show. Ooh, that's a trigger. That's all out that way. Better. Back in the tape days, you didn't have all this. Yes, you did, Andre. You big fat liar. Yes, you did. I know tape engineers who could do this with a fishtailed tape. I know engineers who would transfer this to a single or two-track tape, edit it and splice it and track it back. I know guys from the 80s who would use digital Sony Dash machines to actually load this into the memory of the tape machine, edit it and fly it back to tape. Yes, you absolutely could do this on tape. It would just take longer. Close enough. Tick, tick, tick. on, be on time. Yeah, cool. Mike says, yeah, how many times could you edit back to the same tape? And the honest question the honest answer is it depends on the tape. It depends on the tape formulation. Depends on how well biased your tape machine was and whether the erase head is bleeding over or anything like that. On a good quality, really quite modern tape like a GP9, you could probably do 400 or 500 passes. On an older tape, like an early 456, probably 100, which sounds like a lot, but actually isn't. Not when you're flying things around a lot. Really good example of this is the Rumours album by Fleetwood Mac was recorded on 456 tape, and it was recorded on a batch that was slightly faulty, where they really didn't have many revisions at all. And that album, if you listen to Rumours by Fleetwood Mac, the drums are really under a blanket, really dark, really muffled. That's not by choice. And that's actually transferred from a backup tape because that particular formulation was so bad. But yes, a very good point. You can't do it many times, but you can do it. Like, think about this. A lot of the first 2 or 3 Beatles albums were recorded to either 2 or 3 track tape. Yes, 3 track tape was a thing. And they would fly from one tape to another and back and back and back and back and back. And those things still sound crystal clear today because those tape machines were perfectly looked after. Everything was gain staged to within an inch of its life. The engineers at EMI and Abbey Road knew exactly what they were doing. So yeah, there are loads of overdubs on the early Beatles albums. I'm talking pre-Revolver. I'm talking the really early stuff, the like Love Me Do's and all that kind of stuff. When there's extra vocal harmonies or there's extra harmonicas, all that kind of stuff, that was flown in by transferring from tape machine to tape machine and back to the original tape. And sometimes there would be between 20 and 30 revisions, and it still sounds crystal clear. So yeah, depends on how well it's done. Yeah, Putin just says lots of times I had a 1/4 inch reel for adding overdubs. Several hundred takes bounced over to the 2 in the machine. Yeah, like I say, if everything's properly biased so you're not losing high end on each transfer, if the tape heads are perfectly clean so there's no muck, and everything's gain staged right and not adding distortion, adding noise or anything, if it's all done super cleanly, and the formulation of the tape is good, you can go on for much longer than you would think because professional tape is not home cassette tape. I mean, fundamentally it is, but in terms of the quality of production, it's not. And that's why you pay a lot more for production quality tape. So, there you go. So let's now play this back with the guitars and all the guitars and the bass and the drums. And I had a question from No Nos. Everything's coming in at -3. What about when vocals come in? Well, let's just play you a little section with all the vocals in. Doesn't get any louder on the meters with everything going. Partly because I've got well-disciplined bus compression and a tiny bit of saturation, but also peak and RMS are not the same thing. You have to understand that. The kick and the snare, are what's eating up that peak level. They're not going to get any louder than that, so they're not going to clip. So if I'm adding more fairly constant levels like vocals into an already dense mix, that's going to increase the RMS value. It's not really going to increase the peak value because that bus compressor is keeping peaks in check. So yeah, not a problem. If done right and if gain staged properly from the beginning, which is what I make a point to do. So there you go. Let's listen to this without the vocals. just to make sure everything locks, because the next job then is making sure the timing of the vocals is right, then the tuning of the vocals is right, then we add in those harmony vocals. Then I might even play around with adding a couple of extra bits of instrumentation just to flesh it out a bit, because being the original producer on this, I kind of give myself license to do that. So let's listen to what we have. Yeah, I'm happy with the timing on that. Hi to Mike from CGS in the chat. Everybody say hello. Yeah, you may have seen me on the screen there just playing with the high and low pass filters on the kick as we played, just to get the right amount of ultra low end and the right amount of click, because I've got two parallel kick channels going on and it was a little bit clicky, and so I just found them by rolling off a little bit more of the top on one of the kick channels. That meant that kind of clickiness naturally just, it's there, but it's not offensive, because for this kind of genre, we do want some of that, but we don't want it to be overkill. So let's move on to adding in some vocals, and let's listen to the timing on these. Oh, now I've opened Pandora's box by just bringing this up. And actually, you can see what I would have edited back in the day. A lot of this has already been manually pitch corrected. The tiny writing there, pitch minus 0.30. It's all manually pitch corrected in Reaper manually. So let's listen back to this.
So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I was sunk. You could be the one for me, like the friends that we used to be. Raise the used to be.
Yeah, so that needs to be a little further back so it goes, used to be.
That we used to be. That we used to be. Raise the
So let's just make sure the timing on this is good.
so the sea. So the sea.
And let's get rid of that breath because we don't need that on the start.
So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I
And that's a little early.
won. Raise the ship that I was sunk. You could be the one.
All a bit early.
You could be the one for me.
It's a little pitchy right now, but that is something we're going to go back and do very shortly.
You could be the one for me. You could be the one for me. Like the friends that we used to be. Raise the ship and fly away. Like we knew we would someday. We could easily set to shore. Like we own this.
Yeah, so that's sounding great. So I'm going to right click on all this, go to item. Oh, have I just changed the take somewhere? No. Right click item properties, and there's a pitch shift, and I'm just going to make sure that's 0 to cancel any editing that I would have done nearly a decade ago, because we're going to do it again and we're going to do it right. Ooh.
We could move so we could move so
This is all just a little bit early. It's all a bit giddy.
we could move so far away. Like we knew we would someday. Yet we always have to blame when we know who. Yet we always
Yeah, that's early again.
Yet we always say, yeah, maybe, I will be free.
So that all needs to come forward, actually.
Maybe, I will be free.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. This is what I do when I'm not on camera. This is and has been my day job for the past 15 years or so. Now let's get Melodyne on the case, because oh no, that's a Mellotron, slightly different thing, and would provide hilarious results. Vocals in tune now. Oh, flipping heck. Or as our mate Jamie would say, something much ruder. I don't need a tour. What are you doing?
So this. So
ARA is enabled, isn't it? Melodic.
So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I was sunk.
Okay, now for the question, why am I not seeing that? ARA is enabled.
So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I was sunk. So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I was sunk.
Let's just try putting Melodyne in again. Oh, there it is. It works this time. Weird. Right, so we're going to start by automatically pitch centering everything with a 50% drift. And now we use our human skills where we go in and we listen from the start of it and we go, are you actually where I wanted you to be? It says, surprised how much nudging. Is it because of latency or performance or both? Honestly, a bit of both. I would have been tracking with probably, oh God, I would have been using an old Focusrite Sapphire Liquid 56 at the time, so my latency would not have been great. And the latency on the system, if it's too much, does mess with people's timing and their inner ear. That's why now on the studio system I use this ridiculous RME card that costs far too much money but gets the latency down to something where humans just don't have to deal with it. But yeah, the guys were also quite young and inexperienced at the time, so it's a bit of everything.
So the sea is not Raise the for one.
That should be for what?
For one. Raise the ship that I. For one. Raise the ship that. For one. Raise the ship that I was sunk. You could be the one for me, like the friends that we used to be. Raise the ship and fly.
Oh, there's our first dirt. That should be. That should be there. So I'm jealous. Don't be jealous. This, when we became a full. We didn't have any money really, but what money we did have went straight back into fixing problems that we'd been having way back. And the only way to really kind of entice them into coming back was to do it right. Why have I left my phone? Sorry, I'm distracted. Oh well, I'll have to find my phone later. It doesn't matter. I don't need it right now. Yeah, you work hard, you earn the money, and then you spend it on stuff and you eat the worst food and live at your parents' house until you can afford otherwise. That's what I did for a long time.
Sure, like we own this. Sure, like we own this.
That should be
Queen, like we own this.
no, that needs splitting because that should be a little flick. That should be like we own this.
Like we own it, we own. Like we own this.
Ooh, no.
Like we own this.
Much quicker flick. And that should do it.
Like we own this. We could move so far up. We could move so far up.
Actually, we got that we got an RME Raidat 8 years ago, something like that. We were still using then the Focusrite Liquid Sapphire, which was kind of their big boy in the mid-range at the time. We flipped it round and just used that as a preamp bank. Oh boy, you do not want to hear about some of the ropey equipment we used before all of that, just to get things working and get the bills paid.
We could move so far away, like we knew we would someday. Like we knew we would someday. Yet we always have to blame when we know who.
See, that's supposed to be a lot closer to an A, so I need to split that and drag it down.
When we know who. Yet we always.
That should be, what key are we in? We're in A major, so that should be an E.
Yet we always. Yet we always. Yet we always say yeah, maybe. Yet we always say yeah, maybe, maybe, maybe I will be free. I guess things change over time.
Yeah. Why does the verse vocal sound so rough? Like good rough.
We could move so far away, like we knew we would someday. Yet we always have to blame.
That might be it.
When we know who.
Yeah, so I don't need to drive the verse vocal quite so hard.
We could move so far away, like we knew we would someday. Yet we always have to blame when we know who.
Oh yeah, I made do with some real garbage stuff Our first mixing desk in the studio was a big 24-channel Behringer Euro desk. Anyone who works in live sound will have seen them and gone, oh God, I don't wish them on my worst enemy. And yeah, I ran a studio through that for 2 years. Maybe more, actually. And then that ran into an Edirol 16-channel interface, which was USB and had terrible latency, and we still recorded some albums that we're very proud of at the time. But yeah, and I mixed everything on Mission hi-fi speakers until we could afford something more decent, and that wasn't for years after that, actually. But yeah, I'm getting off track. So the choruses are the big thing here, and one of the things about the chorus is it's got doubled vocals, so these need to be timed right. So I'm just going to play these without the stuff.
Well, I guess things change. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once.
I'm going to get rid of all that stuff, because when you've got a dense mix, it doesn't help.
Time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so many.
When you've got like the verse going, the breaths in there, they kind of work.
So baby,
The 3682, the Mackie. Oh man, you. Oh, did you have the Behringer one?
I'm from yesterday.
Still have it, don't use it. Yeah, as it should be. Ours stays in our attic at the studio and just does not come out. Not even for show and tell. Well, having said that, we switched years later to using the Allen and Heath GL3300 40-track desk as our main preamp bank and direct outs, and we stopped using that 5 years ago. But it only actually came out with the studio a few months back. That's how long that's been a kind of vestigial part of the system. Now let's listen to this with the cuts in with the heavy guitars and make sure the timing's right.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so baby, I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Okay, the timing sounds pretty good. I do remember making a big point at the time when we recorded this all those years ago about getting the timing sharp on doubled vocals.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so baby, I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Nice. Now let's do that again with the second chorus. It looks like we must have just blasted through the second chorus and only done one take each, which is interesting.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah.
Which shows itself because the timing there is slightly sloppier. So I'm going to try and pull that in if I can, because I can see where they don't match. Let's see if that does it.
Well, I guess things change over time. Change over time.
There.
Change over time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could.
It sounds like he's sucking through a straw, but that's what happens when you have like 3 compressors on a vocal. You can hear everything. That's why if you listen to Muse and you listen to a lot of their more distorted stuff really carefully, you can hear in between the notes on the older stuff, and you don't hear that on the newer stuff because Spike Stent, who is one of the best mixing engineers in the world, compresses the vocal like 4 or 5 times, really nails it, then goes through and automates all those little bits down really low.
Called mine. We could easily sail so maybe I'm from yesterday.
Yep, you hear those breaths. There's another one.
Broke free.
Let's just listen through this chorus, make sure it's all timed right.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
Yeah, talk to you soon, Mike. You're always welcome to give me a nudge, give me a ring, send me a message. I do work a lot, but I work on my own hours, so I can always stop for a chat.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday.
They were both early.
I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Nice. Right. And this is going to get a little repetitive. Oh, that take must have been really bad because I just retracked one line by the look of it. So that must have been a proper blurp of a line. But yeah, I've now got to edit the same sounding chorus twice.
Well, I guess things change over time.
So I think the first take is the well, I guess, is early.
Well, I guess things change over time.
Well, the whole thing's rushed. So let's just move that one back, move all of that back as well, and see if that feels good.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
I can hear I could call mine, and that's not the tape slapback which I have going, which is this. There.
I once called mine.
It's not that I'm hearing, it's a whole just timing issue.
Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
Although the slapback echo does actually hide a multitude of sins in a way. We could easily sail, so maybe. The other thing with this being a doubled vocal is that I've got the second vocal using micro shift to put it in the stereo image out of the main kind of center point. And it's a couple of dB down from the main vocal, but it's not super quiet. Let's just see if I can get it. Ah, yes. So, so that first one really is rushing. So that, well, I guess. That's all a little bit rushed. I want to just push it all back.
Well, I guess things change over time. Things change over time. Things change over time.
It starts fast and slows down from there. So what I'm going to do is push this lot in and pull this lot back a little and just see if that crossing point works.
Well, I guess things change over time. Well, I guess things change over time.
That one earlier. Let's see if that works.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
Yeah, it's funny, pushing vocals back a little bit seems to give them almost an authority because them just being a little bit lazy but not out of time.
Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
Just gives them that swagger.
Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe.
And the yelp.
Maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free. From yesterday, broke free. From yesterday, broke free.
Right, let's listen to that whole lot without stopping, starting.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe
Fantastic. So the timing is now good. So now I've got to do all the tuning on all of them. And because I refuse to copy paste with vocals, that means I've got to do this tuning on every single part. Hey, the price you pay for integrity, you know.
Well, I guess.
So I'm going to mute the doubled vocal for now and just zoom on this and make sure that this is right.
Well, I guess things change. Well, I guess things change over time. Over time.
That should be...
Over time. Over time. Yeah, time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail.
That should be a very definite... We could easily sail.
We could easily sail. So maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Sounds good. Next chorus.
Well, I guess things change. Well, I guess things change. Well, I guess things change. Well, I guess things change.
That needs to be somewhere in between. Weird.
Well, I guess things change over.
And that should be 2 notes because that's pulling that sharp. By the way, 2 Notes have got a new website that went live today. And so maybe you could go buy some of our cabs from the 2 Notes store. Now it's all new.
Well, I guess things change over time.
That should be a major 7th.
Change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail. So
Meh. How much time do you reckon a beginner would need to mix a decent song? You don't mix a song well as a beginner. You just don't. You can chase your tail forever. First mix that I ever made that I was truly happy with took me 3 months. I could do the same mix now in 3 or 4 hours. The amount of time it takes is dependent on a lot of factors. How much complication you want to put in, or how simple you want to make it for yourself, how much experience you have, how good your monitoring system is, because if you're not fighting a monitoring system, you tend to work more quickly. Ironically, I'm on headphones, yes, but they're corrected and I'm used to these. These have been my video editing system for over a decade. So that's why beginners, I say, just mix stuff over and over and over and compare to other people. Mix stuff, compare, reference, mix, compare, reference, mix, compare. Do the best you can. Keep going, keep going. Eventually, you won't be a beginner anymore. That's the way to do it. And don't think about how long it's going to take you, because if you think about how long it's going to take you, you are going to give up. I'm pretty happy with the level I've gotten to, but if I, as an 18-year-old, had said to get to that level, do you know what it takes? Yeah, be 35. I probably would have given up, because that's nearly half a lifetime away, mathematically speaking. Oh, how much time do you need to learn to mix a song? Again, I can't answer that question, because it depends on a lot of factors. Do you have a really good ear? Do you have a really good monitoring system? Are you really good already at naturally translating what you hear to something else? And I don't just mean, do you think you're good? I mean, can you prove with results? If you're a person who if someone played you a piece of music and you could automatically transcribe it instantly, you're the kind of person who will do well quickly. If you're not the kind of person who can do that, it will take you longer. How long? Depends on you. How much time are you willing to put in? How how many hours a day can you do this for? It's like anything else. There's the old irony, the kind of, you know, cliche. Yes, cliche. The 10,000 hours of mastery. 10,000 hours. If I was to mix for 3 hours a day, every day, that would have taken me 3,333 days, roughly. Roughly hours divided by 3. And so that includes the days when you don't mix, because everybody has a day off sometimes. And if there are 365 days in a year, that's roughly 10 years if you do it for 3 hours a day, every day. There have been days when I've done it for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. There are days that I've had days off or that I've been doing something else. Quite often I'll do something else that enhances a related skill set, like being a session musician, being a video editor, editing voiceover, working for a media company, doing everything and anything. That's what I did. And yeah, to learn to mix is such a nebulous question, unfortunately, because at what point does somebody say, yeah, you can mix? There are still people who don't like my mixes, which is okay. But I, at this point, can now comfortably say that I've been commissioned by major companies at certain points in my life to do things and have delivered. I could have just stopped and had massive imposter syndrome at some point, and that still creeps at the back of the mind sometimes. But I just don't let that get to me. Is that arrogant? Don't know. If I say I can mix at this point, I mean, I suppose at this point I've got some kind of credentials, but getting to this point was the hard bit. So yeah, it's not a question you can really answer that.
We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
That's all fine. The other thing is the difference between can you get a song to sound good and can you mix. They can be very different things. If someone gives me an acoustic guitar with a bit of light compression and a vocal with some light compression and it's done. And I didn't have to learn to mix. I think as a barometer, you know you can mix and that you're no longer a beginner when someone gives you something you've never heard before with instrumentation or sound style that you are not comfortable with, and you can get something out of it that people are happy with. That is when you can mix. Because if you mix the same style, the same songs, the same everything over and over and over, you're not mixing, you're just retreading ground, hoping to strike gold. You might learn things doing that, so don't not do that, but you know, it's a journey and a process. So yeah.
Well, I guess things change over. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called, and I once called, and I once called mine.
Ooh, that goes bum notey.
And I once called mine. We could easily sail so. Easily sail so.
Ooh, you are weird.
Easily sail so. Easily sail so. Easily sail so. Maybe I'm from. Well, I guess things change over. Easily sail so. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so. 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 Maybe I'm from. Yeah, I'm from. Yeah, I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Maybe you can hear the mic just kind of knocking around and bumping around a little bit because it's slightly loose, and the mic stand has springs in that occasionally just go ch ch ch. And there is a compressor built into this microphone, which kind of brings that out sometimes. But yeah, there we go. Melodyne has done its job on the top layer. So what I'm going to do now is add Melodyne on the bottom layer. I'm going to mute one layer, unmute the other, bring the volume, and turn off micro shift. So we're not trying to pitch correct through a pitch shifter, because that would be horrible.
Well, I guess things change.
I mean, it's doable, but you don't want to, really, if you can help it. Right, so I want to select everything.
Well, I guess things. Well, I guess.
Zoom, zoomy, zoom, zoom, zoom.
Well, I guess things change. Well, I guess things change over time. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah,
That's a little sharp.
it's over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
That's a bit of a slow. So
I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
that's all of the show pitch wise.
Broke free.
That's better. Next bit.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend change over time.
That's rushed. But the other one isn't. So if I move that back, the magic of ARA and Melodyne, that will automatically update Melodyne.
Time. Time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
And a double chorus for the end. Right, it's a 1.5 chorus.
Well, I guess things change. Guess things. Guess. Things. Well, I guess things change. So.
This shall be on
Thing.
E.
Well, I guess things change over time.
Did this lot actually pitch shift? No, it didn't. Weird. Pitch correct even. The stuff at the end didn't correct. So let's just select all that and try again from here.
Well, I guess things change over time. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I. Well, I guess. Yeah, a friend I once called.
Move down.
Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from. Well, I guess things change over.
Is it possible to turn all your tracks mono and mix them like that? It's possible, but it's like torture. Why would you do that? It's stupid.
Well, I guess things. Well, I guess things change over time. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine.
Look, on that topic, I am of the same opinion as Chris and Tom Lord Algie, the two best mixed brothers in the world, which is people listen to everything in stereo. Check mono for problems, sure, but don't mix in mono because nobody's listening in mono. If somebody's listening to like one earphone in mono, that's their problem, not yours. If they're listening through a phone, that cancels down to mono anyway, and all your guitars collapse, and that's not your problem and not your fault.
And I once called mine. We could easily sail, so. And I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe.
There-ish. It goes A, G. Great. Okay, so I'll turn on micro shift on that now. Turn on the other vocal. Turn this one back down to -3, -4. Because I want it to be almost at unity, but not quite.
Well, I guess things change over time. You're a friend I once.
Mono levels out your meters when they're not equal. Yes, because it's in mono. When your levels aren't equal, that tells you that you've got some more information in one side than the other. Don't ignore that and try and fix it by pressing the mono button.
Well, I guess things change over time. You're a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Was that a weak snare hit? These are the few times in a song. 27 is probably about right.
We could move so far away, like we knew we would someday. Yet we always have to blame when we know who. Yet we always say, yeah, maybe I will be free. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. Well, I guess things change over time.
Let's push that back and see if that gives us that swing back.
Well, I guess things change over time. Well, I guess things change over time. Over time. Yeah, a friend
Yeah, let's push the whole thing back just a nudge, just to see that swing in.
be free. Well, I guess things change over time.
There.
Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could hail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Mono level instead of a compressor or limiter? No, I think you've got this backwards. That might make your meters look better, but none of this is about what looks good on the meters or what sounds good to me. It's all about the deliverable. It's all about what the client hears. And in this case, the client is the person listening through the radio. Listening to stuff in mono is not really helpful, apart from the odd phase check to make sure, especially when you're tracking and recording instruments, sure, make sure everything's in proper polarity. But honestly, if you can't hear polarity issues, then maybe you need to go back and spend a little more time listening to stuff. Because if I have two hard pan sources and one's phase flipped, I can very quickly tell you that something's wrong because they don't sound like they're coming from here. They sound like they're coming from about 3 miles apart, which is unnatural. And like, but yeah, listening. Yeah, my guitars kind of drop out. The kick and snare are super solid. That doesn't tell me anything. That isn't pleasing. That's not useful more than anything. Yeah, my first spring arms down in the corner, it did have foam in, but this is a Rode PSA 1, and you don't have access to where the springs are. The springs are way quieter than they are on other arms, though.
Well, I guess things change over time. You're a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from. Well, I guess things change over time. You're a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
There we go, yeah. So yeah, that's probably a good thing to think about. Like when I listen to these kind of songs as a mix engineer, I'm not listening for what I want to hear. I'm listening for what that 14-year-old fan wants to hear. I'm listening for big stereo, big choruses, small verses that bring you in, but in an interesting way, not in a boring way. I'm listening for ironing out problems, but leaving characteristic imperfections that make you, fall in love with that singer, as a, tween listener to material or whoever it may be. Because even if you are 60 and live in a shed, you still have an inner child, and it's usually the inner child I find that latches on to things like music, and it's those elements that make you interested that have to come out. So that's why I was saying earlier, tuning doesn't have to be perfect. Timing doesn't have to be perfect. Any glaring flaws need to be fixed, because if it catches your ear, even as a non-musician, that part of my brain and goes, oh, what was that? That makes you feel bad. But if it's just a little bit quirky, that can make you feel good. And the line between them is so thin, it's difficult to be very technical mixing and feel that at the same time, but that's what I really do go for. So we've got a couple more things to do on this mix. There's an extra guitar. Let's just make sure that's right. That's only on verse 1, and it's dead center right now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to send this to Tape Slap. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add Echo Boy on here, and I'm going to use a classic trick that was used a lot in the 70s, which is I'm going to have the dry signal on one side, and I'm going to have the tape delay side on just the other side, completely wet mix. So right now, I'm going to use an Echoplex model because this is really quite aggressive. I'm going to use some time, time of about 130, 150 milliseconds. Now that doesn't sound interesting yet, but there's a little thing 2 in 2 out in Reaper up here which I can click, and that gives me the ins and outs of this plugin. If I untick, say, input 1 and output 1, that means the left side is using this plugin at all, just the right side. So now if I hit play, I should have clean on one side and delayed tape on the other, and this should sound awesome. So it does sound pretty awesome, but the time is just too much. Right, I'm almost there with it. Reverb, a good idea for creating stereo image? It can be. It depends what you're doing, honestly. This isn't quite what I'm looking for. But the idea is sound. I'm going to use a reverb instead of a delay, a really short reverb. Lexi Small Room. And put some good pre-delay on there as well. And then do the same trick of only have it coming through one side. That's without and with. That now sounds a mile wide. Now let's try that in the mix.
We
Yeah, I like that because that doesn't have to be super loud to have its own place in the mix now because it's been given a stereo feature.
Like the friends that we used to be, raise the ship and fly away. Like we knew we would someday. We could easily set to shore, like we own this. Well, I guess things change over.
Right, so the verse vocal needs to come up volume wise. Oh, sorry.
So the sea is not. So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I once sunk. You could be the one for me. Like the friends that we used to be. Raise the ship and fly away. Like we knew we would someday. We could easily set to shore. Like we own this.
Yeah, it's a good trick, that, isn't it? The stereo-y thing. I got that from Close to the Edge by Yes, which was done in 1970, either 2 or 71. I think it was 72. And yeah, they were doing stuff like that at the time where they would drive a tape machine for one side and run the clean on the other side, just the dry. And it made Steve Howe's guitar sound massive.
So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I.
It's actually not a million miles away from the Eddie Van Halen 1 sound, which was a plate reverb on the right-hand side, which was much more diffuse on one side, but that was Eddie's sound and that worked in that context.
So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I once sunk. You could be the one for me. Like the friends that we used to be.
There we go. I'm just bringing out a bit of grit on the bass because it's quite heavily driven. Ooh, undo. The bass, which is fine. But I just want a bit more character out of those top notes. Like on the chorus, the bass actually has a top line inside it. I hope you can hear it. The bass is quite distorted, so it's quite hard to pick out, but once that's under the guitars, those notes are already in some of the guitar parts, so it just accentuates the note, so it doesn't need to have a super clear character, it just adds an ace little extra thing.
Well, I guess things change over time. You're a friend I once called mine.
Right, I'm going to make a group called Ah. Ah, apparently, rather than Ah. And I'm going to put all 4 of these extra vocals in a separate group. Ooh. So there's so much just low-end rumble on these. Each one is now quickly going to get an EQ that just deals with some of the problems. So Butterworth. And I'm doing it independently just because... Why am I doing it independently? Sod it. Do it on the group. There we go. and they're all a bit pitchy. So here's another cool trick. I'm going to use Reaper's own retune, which looks like a guitar tuner, but it's got these little tabs at the top, and one of them's correction. So this is in A major, so I can tick automatic pitch correction, A major. Attack time seems about right. Soloist modify. Try this on one vocal. That's doing what I need because this is nice and simple. It's in a major key. There's no clever deviation, no clever sliding. There you go. And now this is going through the vocal group. So I'm going to take this out of the vocal group and give it its own separate thing. So this is going to go through the big plate. Or both plates, actually. Yep, and that was a built-in Reaper thing. Retune is also auto-tune. And if you really want to get clever, there's also basically its own version of Melodyne in there, the manual correction in Retune. I don't like it, but it's there if you want it, if you want to dig in. So yeah, there's automatic tuning like auto-tune, and there's another type of tuning in there too. So I've just taken loads more low end out of this and added loads more plate reverb. And let's just see. Oh, and there's a which I want to take out some of that pokiness. Yeah. And let's just see how that sits, because I've no idea how that's going to fit volume-wise. It's probably going to need some tweaks.
Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so maybe. Well, yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so maybe.
Getting there.
Well, I guess
that needs some heavy compression. Is that what that needs? I'm gonna go with the mix rack because that's what I'm using so far in this mix. So I'm just gonna stick with what I've got. There you are. And to a that's all early. They probably need editing, so the rest of them aren't late. But yeah, they're all coming early.
well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so maybe well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so maybe I'm from yesterday. Go free.
Sounding all right. These may well have been copy paste. Looking at the timing, that suggests to me that they were, which is rare for me, as you will know. But I think it just so happened at this particular vocal part, I got him to do it 4 separate times, and I was like, right, that's enough.
Friend I once called mine. We could easily sail so maybe I'm from yesterday. Broke free.
Right, so now let's listen to what we have. Let's put BX limiter on just because we can. This is going to get loud, everybody. Hold on to your butts. But let's listen to this start to finish, and then we'll pick this up next week. We'll do a little bit more polish on it, and then move on to the next song or two. Because now I've got the keyboard. Now I've got a load of stuff from Native Instruments I've got complete. So there's a particular song on here that's got a really nice piano part and some lovely lush strings called Watch the World. So we'll be dealing with that one quite soon. For now, let's listen to this and then sign off.
So the sea is not for one. Raise the ship that I was sunk. You could be the one for me, like the friends that we used to be. Raise the ship then fly away, like we knew we would someday. We could easily set to shore, like we own this. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free. We could move so far away, like we knew we would someday. Yet we always have to blame when we know who. Yet we always say, yeah, maybe I will be free. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from. Well, I guess things change over time. Yeah, a friend I once called mine. We could easily sail, so maybe I'm from yesterday, broke free.
Yeah, pretty happy with how that sounds. The snare needs a bit more of a canon thing, where the previous track Savior didn't. But that's something we can work on next time when we look at the final polishes for the mix as it stands. Of course, near the end of this series, hopefully I'll get this late VSX back. I'll check on studio monitors, and we'll probably make some small tweaks, maybe add some cool stuff. But yeah, let's just add on this last. Let's just add an extra sub drop just because. It's what Joey would do. So yes, thank you everybody for watching. I'm glad some people have appreciated it. Well, yeah, it doesn't sound compressed. Funnily enough, with the limiter on, did you notice the gain reduction here was 0? The LUFS was around -10, but the gain reduction was just it wasn't doing because the mix is properly gain staged and balanced. If everything's balanced in the right tonal ranges, there's no need to slam a limiter. Me and Brown from Monuments have been working on this one for the last year or so, that we did a test mix at his place of some really aggressive stuff, and we put it through the limiter and it was at the right level and it wasn't touching the limiter. And we're looking at each other going, is this real? But yeah, no, when done right, there you go. So yeah, hope all this kind of stuff has been informative. We'll be back with a video tomorrow on changing valves out in the rev generator over there, and changing the bias and all that kind of good stuff, and seeing how different power tubes sound. We'll be back hopefully Wednesday with a stream mixing Banana Ranch. Then we've got Thursday is the podcast, and then Friday I might just curl up in a ball and cry. So yes, lots to do, and I'll see you all on this channel very, very soon. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you in a bit. Goodbye.
Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Hole Studios. See you there.